Hey folks, this is Rhykker, bringing you some fast leveling tips for Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls patch 2.3 and Season 4. That said, I'm sure a lot of this advice will carry over into the future, so even if you're watching this in Season 5 or patch 2.4, I'm sure a lot of this will still apply. In this video, we're going to recap our previous leveling tips and highlight anything that may have changed. We'll also give some new tips, and lastly, we'll go over a master list of items that, if found during the leveling process, you should hold on to throughout your 1 to 70 leveling journey, because they'll still remain powerful, even once you're 20 levels higher than when you got them. But let's start by recapping our former leveling videos. If you want a more in-depth explanation behind any of these tips, then I encourage you to check out the original videos, but here's the quick version. Tip 1. Buy rings and amulets that add flat damage. These give you a huge damage boost early in the game, because when your weapon only does 10 damage, an additional 2 to 4 damage is huge. Tip 2. During the 1 to 70 process, maximizing your damage is key, and your weapon will be your biggest source of your damage. So this should be the item slot that you invest most heavily into. This will generally translate into crafting a new weapon if you've not found a better weapon in some time. Tip 3. Invest in 2 rubies. One for your weapon for dealing more damage, and one for your helm for getting more XP. These are really the only gems worth combining. Every level 70 character should have an emerald in their weapon, but earlier in the game, rubies are far more beneficial. Rubies add flat damage, whereas emeralds add critical hit damage. And in the early game, you don't have much critical hit chance on your gear, so you don't benefit from more critical hit damage all that much. Tip 4. Salvage everything. Unless you're strapped for cash, you should be salvaging all the items you pick up, and this is even more important now in patch 2.3, because crafting materials have been unified. You use the same crafting materials at level 1 as you use at level 70, so everything that you salvage before 70 will still be useful to you in the end game. Tip 5. Do not unsocket items. That is a waste of gold. Simply salvage the item and you will get the gem back for free. Tip 6. Main stat is the most important stat to get on your gear. Main stat being Strength for Barbarian and Crusader, Dexterity for Monk and Demon Hunter, and Intelligence for Wizard and Witch Doctor. Vitality and plus XP are tied for the second most useful stat, but your main stat should be your priority. Tip 7. Play mostly on hard difficulty. Assuming you're optimizing your gear and builds, hard should be just about as easy as normal. The only circumstance under which you want to increase the difficulty is if you receive a large spike in your damage. If you can clear Master and Torment 1 as easy as you clear hard, maybe because you got a reduced level requirement weapon, then go for it, but for the most part, hard will be the most efficient. Tip 8. This should go without saying, but play adventure mode and not campaign. In a bit, we'll go over what exactly you want to be doing in adventure mode to maximize your leveling efficiency. Tip 9. Minimize downtime. This includes time you spend in town, crafting gear, sorting through equipment, selecting skills. Without realizing it, this time really adds up. We'll explore this a little more in depth in just a bit. Lastly, tip 10. The first thing that you want to do when you load into the game at level 1 is steal your follower's weapon. See which of their weapons gives you the most damage and take it. This is whether you're playing single player or in a party. This is a huge damage spike. Our second video brings us tip 11. As of level 42, you can start crafting gear that rolls with reduced level requirement. You only want to do this with a weapon. Level 60 weapons can roll with a max reduced level requirement of 18. It's difficult to get a max roll, but a max roll would allow you to equip at level 42 a level 60 item. All the money and crafting materials that you've been saving up to this point have been for this. If you can't get a roll of 18, that's fine. You can always equip it at level 50 or whatever level you manage to roll, but obviously you'll be benefiting the most as of level 42. And at 42, with a level 60 weapon, you can certainly handle Torment 1. On to our third video. Tip 12. This one's about minimizing downtime. If you take a look in the video description, you'll see some links to leveling spreadsheets. These spreadsheets were made for Season 2, and what they effectively do is follow a level-by-level path on decision-making. Rather than waste time deciding on what skills to pick while leveling, I went ahead and pre-planned all the skills. I created a wizard version of the spreadsheet, and then other people made versions for the monk, barbarian, and demon hunter. And these people would be Freddy Ramson, Velux, and Inochi, respectively. One note, in 2.3 the crafting recipes have changed, so you cannot follow the crafting suggestions in my wizard spreadsheet. But to put it simply, just consider crafting yourself a new weapon when you find yourself at the blacksmith to salvage items, and if your current weapon is several levels lower than you are. Tip 13. To minimize the amount of time that you spend debating whether gear is an upgrade or not, for the most part, you can just base your decision on whether the item increases your damage. The only real exception here would be a helm, because you do not want to give up a helm that has a socket in it for a helm that does not have a socket in it. You really want to have a ruby in your helm. Tip 14, if you're playing solo, hire the Templar as your follower. Tip 15, when you're fighting enemies, don't bother to kill stragglers. They're a waste of your time. You want to be focusing on area of effect attacks that are able to deal damage to a lot of enemies at once. And you always want to be maximizing the number of enemies that you're hitting. With an area of effect power, it takes just as long to kill one enemy as it does to kill 7 enemies. What you want to instead do is try to pull those stragglers along into the next group of enemies so that you can hit them all at once. So that wraps up our past guides, and in Season 2, our leveling group managed to hit 70 in 5 hours and 18 minutes, which is a time that we were happy with. However, we did suffer some mishaps that ended up slowing us down, so we could have actually gone faster than that. On to our first new tip, tip 16. Play in a party. In patch 2.3, the plus XP you get from plus XP gear is shared party-wide. So if you don't have plus XP gear, but someone else in your party does, you will benefit as well. This is on top of the benefit that you're already getting from having 4 people. You're putting out 4 times as much damage, and the monster hit point scaling does not increase at the same rate. With 4 people in the party, you're dealing 4 times the damage, but monsters have less than 4 times the amount of hit points they normally have. Tip 17, save any puzzle rings and bovine bardiches that you find. You can use them, but don't break those down. At level 70, you can put those in Kanai's cube to open a portal to Greed's Realm and the Cow level respectively. A level 70 Greed's Realm will net you the Boon of the Hoarder gem, as well as a lot of gold to help get you started. As for the Cow level, that's basically a super rift, which will net you some good XP and a bunch of resplendent chests. Tip 18. We're now circling back to what you want to be doing in adventure mode. What is the most effective way to level? In Season 3, it was a combination of the Halls of Agony and Cursed Chest bounties. That said, rifting was also a method that was seeing some success. Some people were reporting getting to level 70 in as little as 4.5 hours doing only rifts. While these people didn't have anything to back up their claims, and they may have been exaggerating, I'm inclined to believe that it was possible to get to 70 in 4.5 hours doing only rifts. That said, the problem with rifts is that they're inconsistent. The Halls of Agony and Cursed Chest method produced consistent results, in large part thanks to the Halls of Agony always being there, always having the same density, the same monster types, and the same difficulty. With rifts, you can get lucky and get some really nice, dense rifts with easy monsters, or you can get unlucky and get poor density, difficult monsters, and thus it can take you significantly longer than 4.5 hours. All based on luck of the draw. But the biggest reason I did not previously recommend rifts was because you had to farm bounties to get rift keystone fragments, and that was an inefficient use of time. But now in patch 2.3, you no longer need rift keystones to open regular rifts. It is now free to do so. So that's why for patch 2.3 in Season 4, I recommend doing rifts. Yes, there does remain the issue of running into bad luck and getting bad rifts. But if you get a really bad one, you can just quit the rift and remake. It costs you nothing now. Plus, while in a rift, you have double the chance at receiving a legendary item. And not only are legendaries items that you'll be able to keep for longer because they roll higher stats, and thus it would take more levels for you to be able to find a yellow to replace them. But again, in 2.3, when you salvage legendaries before level 70, you get the same crafting material that you would get at level 70. This will also include loot and crafting materials that you get from the Rift Guardians. It used to be that everything you did before level 70 was basically a waste, but now it's an investment. You'll also start saving up blood shards, and so while overall rifting has the potential of being less efficient than the Cursed Chest and Halls of Agony method, if you happen to get bad luck, it will better position you for when you hit level 70. And it's probably also more fun than grinding out Halls of Agony over and over and over. Now lastly, here are some items that you want to hold on to if you find them while leveling. Basically, these are items that age really well throughout the leveling process thanks to some form of utility. Cane Set and Leoric's Crown are great for giving you more XP. Leoric's Crown will double the effect of the ruby you put in your helm, and Cane Set just nets you more bonus XP. As for the rest of these items, these are all items that help you deal a lot more damage. For instance, the Poxfold Pants emit a poison aura that affects nearby enemies and deals about 500% weapon damage every second. Even if you find new pants that give you a 10% damage boost, is that 10% increased damage worth giving up the 500% damage every second? Now, I'm not saying that these are items that you want to hold on to from level 8 to level 70, and each one should be treated a little differently, and a lot of them are somewhat situational, in that your character needs to be able to actually benefit from the effect. For instance, Poxfolds on a ranged character are useless, but on a melee character are great. Or some of these items need you to build around them. You have to pick a skill that corresponds to the skill that's being buffed by the item. So there may come a time at which the item is simply too low level. But that said, you would be keeping any of these significantly longer than other items. That said, if there's one item that you'd want to keep from the minimum level at which you can find it until level 70, that would have to be the Nagel Ring. The fallen lunatics that it summons deal a tremendous amount of damage. That wraps up this guide. Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos. And if you enjoyed this one, share with friends, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders.